Okay, Coach. First question, Chad.
Hey, good morning, Fran. I'll go first here. How are you?
Doing all right, Chad.
Um, I think I can't remember if it was Peyton or Philip, but when you guys lost to Eastern Illinois and then Nebraska, I think they mentioned practices got really hard. Do you, what is your philosophy on like working the guys hard after what they said was kind of, I felt like they felt like it was a disappointing loss the other day, or is it, at this point in the season you're just trying to save legs? I'm curious your approach, I guess.
Yeah, I typically don't uh go crazy with that kind of stuff. It depends on where the game falls, what's coming next, how much time do you have for rest. It's a long season. I say this all the time. We start practice in June. So you don't accomplish much by uh having a 4 hour. We never do that. Just have a regular practice, watch the film, uh, obviously move on to the next team because you got to start getting ready for them. Yeah, so just business as usual.
Kenny.
Morning, Coach. Appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. When you had a chance to go back and look at the Northwestern film, did anything stick out about what they were doing to you defensively in the half court, and how can your team remedy that for tomorrow night?
Yeah, we were 20 for 30 from twos. We missed open threes. It wasn't anything they did defensively. It was turnovers, and we made defensive mistakes. We were not clicking defensively at all.
Tom.
Hey, Fran, you guys played Wisconsin so long ago now, it seems like, in early December. Is that a different challenge? And do you see anything different with them over that extended period of time?
Well, they made a change in their starting lineup, but those two guys are going to play a lot of minutes anyway, so it really doesn't matter, I guess, who starts and who comes in off the bench. They're not going to change much with what they do. They have a system that's worked. Obviously, a lot has happened between then and now, but we're different. I think in a lot of ways. Obviously, we didn't have Chris that night, but Connor's now in the starting position. Ulis and Perkins have had an opportunity to gain more experience. But the same for them. In the roles that they're in. I mean, Chucky's Chucky. You could Chucky and Tyler Wall and Stephen Crowell. You kind of expect what you get from them, but you got a CGN who's a really good freshman, and Klesman who's a transfer. So now they've had more time to blend in with what they're doing. Davis is a good player. Gilmore is good, but obviously we're on the road. It'll be a little bit different.
Chad.
It's been a while since I've asked about Patrick. How's he doing with everything regarding the mental pause and having come back? Is he back in a flow in your mind as a father and a coach, and feeling good about everything that's going on with him?
Yeah, you know what, Chad? I think he's closer. I think he's back in the flow in terms of how he feels. His game is getting closer to being as comfortable and playing like he was. I think it's been good for him to come off the bench, be a little more relaxed. But we need him. As the season goes on, you need all your scorers, you need all your veteran guys, you need bodies. It's a grind, and then you also deal with foul troubles. So he's been good, and he'll continue to get better.
Steve.
It looks like Kasijan is kind of up to his game here the last 4 or 5 games for them. What differences do you see in his play right now?
I thought he was pretty good the first time around. I mean, he's only a freshman, and that was obviously early in his career, very early. It was early December. But he's a guy that plays like a veteran, even though he's a freshman. Absolute pure shooter. moves well without the ball, competitive guy. And, he's getting more minutes. So, the numbers are going to go up. He had a terrific game against Michigan.
Chad,
Hey, Josh, I know had the knee injury and was out for a while, and he got a couple minutes against Purdue. I'm just kind of curious where he's at in his recovery development, in terms of could he be used in the rotation? I'm just curious kind of how he's doing in practice, I guess.
He's working hard. I think he feels better. Even when he came back, I thought he was not quite 100%, playing through, that sprained ligament. I think he's more comfortable now with his legs under him, and he's anxious to play. He's ready to play, and he'll get some opportunities. But he's been practicing well, Chad.
Mike,
Given the weather forecast, is there any change to your travel plans, and what are your travel plans? And following up on that, what, I guess in your career, you've been on a lot of buses. So have there been any adventures you remember the most?
Well, we are busing. We're leaving after practice at 1 o'clock today. Getting back, who knows? Like you said, what the forecast is what the forecast is. We'll deal with that at the time. Yeah, I remember coming back from Johnson City, Tennessee on the way back to Greensboro. And I always sit in the first seat. And our bus driver said, "Look," I said, "we're gonna have to shut this down. We're not gonna make it." So that was a bus league, so we bussed all the time. So we pulled over and got hotel rooms, and that was the prudent thing to do. I remember coming back from we bussed to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. We pulled up to the locker room area, the gym where we were going to let the guys off, and kids were going to class. It was early, it was morning, it was light. We drove through the night. That's the kind of stuff we did. So hopefully the weather won't be too bad that precludes us from getting home. But if that's the case, we'll either stay there or we'll stop halfway, something like that.
Kenny,
Coach, going back to a point that you made about being connected on defense, I know this is a team that generates offense off of getting defensive rebounds and running in transition. Against a team like Wisconsin, the place that they play, in your experience with them in past years, what is the key in the half-court defense to limit them offensively and then be able to turn those good stops into plays in transition?
Well, I think, Kenny, there's a lot of things. They don't run traditional set plays where they're making a play call or one of the assistant coaches holding up a sign. A lot of it is based on read and react. So they're running action more than they're running plays. And the kids have really good feel for how you're playing them. Are you hugging them? Are you off? Are you on the side? And they try to take advantage of that. So, it requires 5 guys being committed together every possession, because they're kind of relying on, somebody's going to stand up, somebody's going to turn their head, somebody's going to relax, and that's when they get you. So you gotta have a level of tenacity and physicality without fouling, because a lot of teams just beat you up now. And so you got to be physical without fouling, and then you got to limit them to 1 shot if you can. And last game, I believe they had 15 offensive rebounds. Sometimes they get back to take away your fast break, but they will go to the glass, and they've proven that.
Okay, we'll take a couple more. First, Chad.
Hey, Fran, another offbeat one here, but forgive me if you answered this. I know I missed some time, but you had two new assistant coaches this year. I mean, you lost Billy, you lost Kirk. I was just kind of curious. What have you seen in first? I know you expect them to be very good, and I'm sure they have been. But with Courtney and Matt, just what have been kind of their strengths? What have you been pleased with in terms of their first year as full-time assistants?
Well, it's a little different with Courtney because he was here, so he just moved up. Now you're right, his responsibilities are different. He has scouts, he has recruiting responsibility, but I think it was a somewhat easy transition because he'd been here for I think about 6 years, at least. Matt, I was pretty confident, number one, because he played here, he played for me, he knows how we do things. And he's had the opportunity to work, for two really good head coaches, in Bruce Pearl and Darren DeVries. He also paid his dues. He was a GA. He was a director of operations. Then they put him on the road, and now he had on-court responsibility. So I felt like it would be easy for him, and he's been great. They've both been great. They connect well with the players, and I think they have essentially a complete skill set for this profession.
And if I could follow up, I talked to Connor a couple weeks ago, and he said he does want to go into coaching, but he would like to maybe go somewhere else and not coach for you in his first steps, ideally. What are you are pretty happy that he's going to kind of pursue that field, and you think he'll be a great coach?
Well, I think he will be a great coach, and I'm happy for him to pursue whatever it is he's passionate about. I didn't want him to do it because I did it. I didn't want him to not do it because I did it. So I wanted that to be up to him. And we've said this, he's been coming to practices since he was in kindergarten. So he's like, look, I know how we do things. I know our system. I know inside and out. Not only have I been involved with the program at Greensboro and at Siena, and now at Iowa, I played here. I've been here 6 years. I need to go somewhere else and learn how they do it, and I've said this many times. When I worked for John McLeod, he had a great line. He would say, there's just different ways to do it. This is how we do it. And Digger was the same way. It's like, this is how we do it. And I was lucky to work for both of those guys because they did it differently. And Coach was right. So I think it's important that you go and experience a different set of ideas, a different approach, and that's across the board. And if it's in college ball, then how do teams recruit? How do teams prepare? How do teams scout? And how do they put practice together? And how hard do they push? And when do they back off? How do they break down film? Are they more concerned about themselves, or do they spend time watching the other team? If he happens to go to the pros, well, that's a whole different world. You're not really involved in scouting of players, but you might be involved in scouting the other team. You might be involved in player development. You might be involved in on-court or on the bench coaching. And hopefully you would have an opportunity to be exposed to all of that. Some of the best minds in basketball are in the NBA. It'd be a great opportunity for him to go there if he could and learn from some of those terrific coaches. So whatever he chooses to do, I'll support him 100%, and I'll be happy for him.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, thanks for your time. Good luck on
Hey, guys.
Wednesday.
Appreciate it, guys.
Everybody.